Okay. Well, thank you for joining us all. For everyone who's joining us tonight, it's great to have you virtually with us on this webinar. We hope that you take something out of it. We hope you enjoy it. We won't, we'll try and make it lighthearted and educational, so we don't bore you too much. After all, financial topics are not the most interesting in the world, but like I said, we'll try and keep it light and interesting, so you'll get some value out of it and hopefully some good pointers that you can apply to your own lives outside of this afterwards. So we are talking about better real estate investment strategies, specifically for medical professionals. And I guess why we've decided to talk about medical professionals in particular is because one of our board members here today, Dr. Guru Yajaman, is a practicing GP himself. And, and I guess this theme was inspired by his long-term friendship and journey with Madhu Ramana, who's his wealth mentor, and now his colleague and compatriot here at Global 360 Degrees and Wealth 360 Degrees and the other companies within the group. And yeah, I guess they realized that there was a need for better financial education and sort of mindset education for medical professionals, because they do fall victim to a lot of people, I guess not offering bad advice, but just there's a lot of advice out there, and it's not necessarily clear what's the best advice for a particular situation, because I guess a lot of accountants and financial planners are trained to look at wealth planning for doctors a certain way, when it might not necessarily be what they really want or be able to get them to achieve their highest potential. So that's what we want to do today, is sort of open your mind up to how you might be able to challenge some of those ideas or some of those long-held concepts you might receive from financial planners, accountants, etc., and just know what questions to ask when you are being handed over some strategies or advice, to make sure that you're getting the best strategy for your needs. So just go forward. Sorry, the slide doesn't seem to want to change. Okay, I was pressing the wrong button. My bad. Not the best with technology here. So I guess let's just, before we dive right in, let's recap right at the beginning. A lot of the people in the audience today decided to become doctors and medical professionals, I guess, not for the money. It's great, it's a nice benefit, but let's face it, you don't go to uni for 10 years or more and give up your income for that long and work so hard, for a paycheck and the end of it. You've got to love what you do. You've got to love medicine. And I guess you want to help people and have those real deep and meaningful connections and make an impact on people's lives, and know you're doing something good for them. So I think that's a desire that many medical professionals have when they join the field, is to want to really care for people and make a difference in their lives. What they don't realize is that the reality often doesn't match up with that expectation. You get thrown into a system where you have to work under the government's rebate Medicare system. You've got back-to-back patients lined up out the door, churning them through a rotating door system, and on top of that, lots of bureaucracy and paperwork. And it's hard to see the people and your patients for who they really are, and form those deep connections and give the best level of care. At the same time, you've got that long hangover of having spent so many years at uni and a big debt to make up. So you're forced into a wedge where you're working ever harder than before to try and make up for that lost time, well, not lost time, but that time invested in your education in uni, and at the same time not really reliving that expectation that you had hoped of, great patient care and making a difference in people's lives. So it's easy to lose perspective in that and get stuck on the hamster wheel and sort of, you work ever harder and not necessarily make any headway. You get busy and caught up with life. You kind of don't really possibly look into your finances as deeply as you should, because you're so preoccupied with work and then family life and then whatever outside of it. Maybe there's some sort of tendency to keep up with the Joneses as well. You see all your peers getting nice houses, nice cars, this and that. You feel like you should as well. So you work harder to do that. Possibly maybe you feel guilty for spending so much time at the office, you're spending on family holidays, etc., to also appease those at home. So it does become a bit of a trap. And unfortunately, the common advice we see being given to a lot of medical professionals from their accountants, financial planners, etc., sort of works to make that problem deeper. They dig themselves into a bigger hole, because rather than getting more free time to enjoy with their families, see less patients, have better conversations with their patients, and not have to have as high billings because their wealth is being taken care of externally and passively, we see a lot of the wealth approach these people are being given is to actually stimulate and reduce their ability to actually earn passive income on the side, which is not good. So I guess that's the core root of the problem we want to address with you today, talking through, Madhu and Guru's experience and partnership working together. But before we dive into that, I think we've got everyone joining on board now, which is great. So that's a bit of an intro to fill up some time there. But I'll hand over to Yeshim, who will introduce us to the Global 360° group of companies and a little bit more about what we do, before we dive into the actual presentation presented by Dr. Guru Yajman, who's the director of Global 360° and also a GP by trade. His speciality is in healthcare and humanitarian outreach. And Madhu Ramana, who's the chairman of Global 360°, and his speciality is in the business and wealth strategy side of things. And Yeshim, who talk to you now a bit about the company, as her speciality is in operations and finance. I'll hand over to you now, Yeshim, for now.
Yeah, okay. So I guess we'll just proceed as is. Like I said, this is all our faces anyway. So hopefully you guys have a voice to match to the a face to match to the voices. So my name is Yeshim. I just wanted to give a quick introduction to Global 360, Global 360°. So as you can probably see on the screen, so Global 360° is the parent company for Wealth 360 and Health 360 hosting this talk tonight. Of course, we've got our motto, getting things done for good. But essentially it's a parent company to all the sub companies, and our intention is to create a movement with our community to change one life at a time. So I'll be talking a little bit about our heart and soul here before we get into the nitty gritty. So this is the Global 360° group. Now, looking at this, you'll probably see all the sub companies under this umbrella, and you can probably make out that most of these services that we do cover is probably what you'll need to embark on a wealth building exercise. But if you do dig a little bit deeper into us, you'll see that our heart and soul, beyond our operational front, we are actually a humanitarian organization. So I'll touch on that a little bit, but the key thing that we want to make very clear when people interact with us is that we are not a charity company. We don't believe in charity as well. So our motto is that we believe, as a global citizen of this planet we all call home, that it's everyone's responsibility to extend that helping hand if you do have the means to do so. So we've built this suite of companies to help grow wealth in our community, international, local. And what we believe is that the more people we help generate wealth, that's more people that will go and extend their helping hand to the wider community as well. So that's just a little bit about us as a group. And of course, our goal, because we are a humanitarian organization, our goal is to change one life at a time. So we're not trying to play superhero, but we do believe that wherever you can make impact, please do extend your helping hand. And a little bit of a background to date on the humanitarian outreach that we've managed to accomplish so far, with, of course, the support of our community. So we've supported 12 university students' fees in India. So most of them are aspiring medical students like you guys joining tonight. We've also joined a local fostering agency called Barnardo's. So that's got a dual relationship. So of course there is a monetary partnership that we do have, but we also volunteer the team's personal time as well. So if you guys do a little bit of research on our social media, you would see that we actually all helped out in the Barnardo's Auburn Centre, which is a family centre where the families get to meet with the children, etc. So we are working on what we plan to do next in 2022. So watch this space. And our motto is health, wealth, and humanity. The picture here is actually just a little snapshot from Barnardo's in Auburn, our little day out. So you'll be able to see most of the team there. Now to break down our motto and how these kind of gel and work together. Of course, people probably look at this and think, how on earth does health and wealth work together? Most people tie health and humanity, but how do these three come together and what makes our operation unique? So we, of course, understand that the health component is the foundation to life. There's no point being wealthy or anything if you don't have your health and your happiness intact. So we've actually partnered with like-minded medical professionals, and we've obviously got big aspirations for our Health 360 operations, which I'll let Dr. Guru touch on in more detail. And then we've gone and we've incorporated the wealth building side of it. So we respect and understand that, the commerce of the world and the way the world does function. So our intention, as I mentioned briefly, we intend to grow wealth in the community around us, because the more people that are in a position to, that are more financially comfortable, we believe that's one extra person that can help one extra hand there. So that's kind of how those two pillars come together. And then, of course, the heart of all of our operations is our humanitarian outreach. So it is the heart and soul of all of our operations. So we have big aspirations for Humanity 360. We want to send doctors around the world and provide medical assistance for those who don't have the access to it. We want to build schools in countries that, for students that don't have access to education. And overall, we want to help provide everyone with the opportunity to a happy and healthy life. So that's how these things come together. Hopefully throughout the night, you'll get a little bit more of an understanding on who we are and how we operate, what makes us so different. But our humanitarian pledge, so we've got, as a team, we've come together purely for what we align with in our hearts. So as a team, we decided that we want to concentrate on the areas that we can make most impact and what touches our heartstrings as a team. So that's how we've come together, and we decided on these three key areas. So we believe strongly in these areas. We try live and breathe it every single day of our life, and wherever possible, we implement it as much into our daily lives as possible. So of course, children's rights and the access to education, women empowerment, and the healthcare access as well. The team is dedicated to collectively come together on these core values. And these are the areas that have really touched our hearts as a team the most. And as a community as well, this is the areas where we've concentrated on as the Global 360 family. That's just a very, very quick snapshot into the Global 360 soul and hearts. I do strongly urge you guys, if you haven't already, please do look up on our websites. We have lots of content available even on our social media. Of course, I don't want to take away the highlight of the presentation, which is Dr. Guru and Madhu, but please do, if you feel you resonate in any way, shape or form, there's a lot of content that you'll probably able to reach out and and see a little bit more about what we do as an operation. So without further ado, I'll actually pass over to Dr. Guru, and coming back to the Wealth 360 side of things. We believe that opportunities don't just come and fall on your lap. We actually create those opportunities. So within a span of, just under 2 years, we've done quite a lot as a newbie company, but under all the team's belt, there's a lot of experience. And as you can see, we've negotiated over $500 million worth of real estate assets with a minimum of 10% under market value. So there's a lot of experience, a lot of opportunities that we've created, and a beautiful community that we've built around us as well. So without further ado, Dr. Guru.
Thanks, Ashim, for the wonderful introduction to our heart and soul, the Global 360 Degrees. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this evening, giving you a valuable time on a Friday night. I hope this session will make your time worthwhile. Just to introduce myself, I'm Dr. Guru Yajaman. I'm a GP. I'm very passionate about my profession and also my purpose to serve the community. So I'm also an economic immigrant to Australia, before that to UK. And this is my investment journey, which I want to share with you all. Well, I was born and brought up in a country of 1 billion people, which is India. And I've seen firsthand the poverty and the struggle the people go through with the health and well-being. And that is what motivated me to become a doctor in the first place. Serving the community by becoming a doctor, especially the underprivileged ones, was the purpose of my life. And I'm sure whoever has taken up the medical profession, this resonates with you all. And you all have your passions and purpose to serve the community. That's why we became doctors in the first place. Well, to pursue my career further, I migrated to UK in year 2000 after finishing my medical degree. And I finished my post-graduation as a general practitioner, and I started working in UK. So as with life, as it progressed, like majority of the people, I succumbed to this rigmarole of what I call the social conditioning. And I lost a bit of a direction, that's what I want to say, especially in terms of my purpose, what I wanted to achieve in terms of service and, giving back to the community in terms of healthcare. So I focused more on earning dollars, spending money on, materialistic aspects without any, direction and purpose for the future. So this kind of led me to kind of lost direction in me. So even though I stayed for over 12 years in UK, hardly made any investment journey. So I had bought my principal place of living. Apart from that, there was no sense of direction in terms of wealth generation for me. So I was earning a very good income. Most of the things I did was, satisfy my materialistic desires. But in a way, I would say my passion to serve and, giving back to the community and serve the community, took a back burner. So I always felt while I was in UK for over 12 years, I was sure I was lacking something. And seeing some opportunities in Australia, I moved to Australia in 2014. If I remember right, around May and June of 2014. I think that's where my life changed. So this is the photo of that was taken in the ceremony of my what do you call that? Wife's baby shower. Baby shower of my wife. That was in 2015. He's already 6 years old. Even before that, I met Madhu coincidentally because my daughter in the picture and his daughter, as you can see in the picture, they go to the same school, and I met them incidentally. I think that's probably the best, direction changing thing to happen. So before I explain you what all happened in 2015 when I met Madhu till say 2020, 2021, I want to watch this next video as a short clip. It's about a minute long video, but though it's an impromptu video, I want to capture the emotion of the kids that is really genuine and it is priceless.
This is the second time I'm seeing the house. We're going.
Okay, we are getting into the new house. Today is 27th of August at 4:30. Friday, good day. We are moving into the property. The gates are open now. As owners of the house, we are entering the house.
Daddy, close the door.
Priyanti is coming at the back.
Keep going. Look how she feels.
She's here.
Oh, she's here. I can see them. Okay, Jay. Just sit. We're going to the house. Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful.
So proud of this. Goodness me. So how amazing it is to see those kids' genuine, priceless emotions. I really love this video and I keep seeing this scene again and again. Well, I'll introduce, this is my dream home now, and you name it, it has got everything. Like an indoor pool, pool table, entertaining, lavish, lounges, tennis courts, even a squash court, 10 bedrooms, everything. This is what we wanted to achieve, and this happened in 2020, 5 years from the journey, from the time I started my journey in 2015. So before that, I built this property in Kellyville, which was a stepping stone to achieve my dream home currently I'm living in. Also happy to share my other investments so far. I've got a property in Gold Coast. I've got 2 properties in Box Hill, a property in Fletcher, Newcastle, and an apartment in Castle Hill, and a family home, of course. So the total value of my assets at the moment is about 11.2 mil, and a net worth after my debt position is about 6.1 mil. And I'm also, in association with Madhu, we started another members of the founding members. We started the Global 360 Degrees. I'm also a director of the Global 360 Degrees and also CEO of the Health 360 Degrees. So in 5 years, what I was able to create was the financial abundance. That's what I'm trying to get at. So what does this actually mean in reality? So what is the financial abundance mean? So that means it gave me opportunity to get back to and pursue my passion. That is devoting my time and energy to what I love, which is caring for my patients and providing the healthcare services to the need. And as a CEO and a director of 360 Degrees, we have got a long and very large vision to achieve and provide a quality healthcare globally, serving especially the underprivileged community throughout the world. And in the years to come, we are going to achieve this. And this sort of financial abundance has given me this opportunity to put all my energy into what I love the most. I think that's what I was mentioning. So how did I achieve it? I think I would like to share my experience, how I achieved, as I mentioned earlier, from 2015 to 20, what all happened. I think this picture summarizes it really well. These are the two key people in my life. One is my wife, Shruti, other is my financial guru, my mentor, Madhu Ramana. So the journey into 2015 started with choosing Madhu as my mentor. So as we get to know each other, our friendship grew, and I learned quite a lot from his experience. So just to give a brief introduction while I'm here, he's got a real estate experience more than 15, 20 years. He has worked in investment banking for over 5 years in Westpac Bank. And he has, more importantly, has personally achieved financial freedom, creating extensive portfolio for himself. And he's been a portfolio specialist and is a group CEO of a large investment firm. So in my opinion, he fits all the criteria to make him my financial mentor to achieve my financial freedom. So who else can be a better person than the person who has gone through the journey and achieved himself? I think that's very important, to choose the right mentor who has gone through this journey, what we want to achieve, and get his expertise and his valuable information, knowledge, and utilize that. That is very important. How did the journey start? It all started with a strategy session. So Madhu spends a lot of time. He's very passionate about what he does. Like me, I'm very passionate about my healthcare. He's very passionate about wealth generation. He spends a lot of time. So we had a strategy session, maybe 2 hours, more than 2 hours. It was extensive, it was more personalized. There was no obligation, there was no sales pitch. It was all about sharing the information to get insight into how this real estate can be an investment strategy to achieve our financial freedom. So it covered a lot of mistakes I was doing before that. And also he provided with the strategies to mitigate them. So this is how I learned. I'm sure when Madhu takes over the stage, I'm sure he's going to explain in detail more about what are the things that we discussed in strategy. I think that was the most important meeting, I would say, I had in my life that changed everything in 2015. So what it gave me was a new mindset. I think that's the most important bit. Having the right mindset is the most important aspects in changing your financial direction. So I'm going to briefly touch upon what all I've learned from Madhu over the years in a brief, in a summary manner. The first thing he always says every day, and the thing that stuck in my mind, is be the CEO of your life. Okay, that's the most important thing. What it means is you need to be the driver of your life. You need to make the decisions for your life. Don't let others make decisions for you. It is your life and you make the decisions. And setting goals is the most important aspect. Without knowing what you want to achieve, you can never go anywhere. Unless you want to know what you want in life, we won't be able to achieve them. So I set like 5-year goal. I told Madhu at my first meeting that I want to be in Anchorage in about 5 years' time. Look at this. In 2020, we made this happen. And I can't forget this one sentence he told me the first thing. Madhu told me that education should give us the strength, not the fear. Majority of the times, we inherit a lot of unnecessary fears. Being knowledgeable, we read a lot of Google researching, read a lot of news, media, make our own assumption, and we create fear for ourselves. Being educated, intelligent people, we should lose that fear and use that education as our strength. And I can't forget. I'm sure, we don't, as a health professionals, we see a lot of Google doctors. Do we appreciate them? I mean, we acknowledge them, but they're not going to serve any purpose as Google doctors learning from Google to, diagnose a condition. Same thing in this financial world. We need to get expert and specialist advice. That comes to my slide. Most importantly, to create a supportive team. it's important. I can't stress enough to get a specialist advice to, start your journey and create a special support team to achieve your financial goals. It could be, strategy specialist to build your portfolio, an accountant, financial planner, property manager, a legal team. You need to have the whole supportive team. The main important bit about the team is they should all be working together to achieve your goals. They should be communicating with each other to achieve your goal, and you should be the CEO. So you are in the driving seat and all the supporting team are supporting you to achieve your financial goals. Always interact and network with people who have achieved and gone through the similar journey what you want to achieve. Reading, seeing media, reading social media, acknowledging to the rumors should be highly avoided, in my opinion, because most of the times the information that you get either is false or is too late by the time it comes to you. I think first-hand experience from an investor who has gone through journey, that is the most information source of information you can gather, and that will lead to achieve your goals. Well, I want to tell some challenges, what we are facing as medical professionals. First of all, we are all time poor. I mean, everybody can acknowledge medical profession is, we hardly have any time to live alone caring for patients, thinking about all the other investment strategies and stuff. Because we devote most of our time in patient care, we don't have time to look into investments and strategies and other things. Precisely for the same reason, we being the time poor, we get wrong advice. For example, reducing the tax becomes the sole purpose, thereby reducing your taxable income by showing expenses and stuff, thereby reducing your tax, which in fact negatively impacts our serviceability. That's one short example. So I'm sure Madhu is going to throw light on those sort of things. And there will be a lot of unnecessary structures, expensive structures like, trust, super trust, and other things which we don't understand. They will all be created in order to support the assets and stuff, which serve no purpose at all. And investments without any particular strategies, like high-end properties, buying negatively geared, highly expensive properties, which will again, reduce your serviceability. All your income is going to just to service that one particular property. Those are the things that our health professionals are succumbing to. And also because of our time poorness and also lack of knowledge of finance, never in my 5-year medical or another 5 years of, higher post-graduation time, never even one day I was taught any financial knowledge. We totally lack. I completely agree. Coming from my profession, we totally lack any financial knowledge, and we ask wrong question to wrong professionals. Imagine asking your accountant about how your investment strategy should work to build the wealth itself is a wrong way to go forward. They are an important part of the team, and they should be serving your purpose. As I said, they should be a part of the team supporting your structure rather than they making decisions about how and what investments you want to make in your life. But again, as with challenges, there are some great opportunities being in the medical profession. So we are all reasonably very high income earners, and we are an intelligent community. We're all knowledgeable. And the most importantly, being health professionals, we get 10% deposit to put for the loans. I think that is the massive, huge advantage compared to any professionals where they have to come up with about 20% deposit. That's talking about 1 to 2 properties difference, for each investment. So because we are high income earners, we can create our own team of health experts and build support team to achieve our goals. And again, you have global health 360, global 360 degrees. So when we started this journey, this was precisely the reason why we incorporated global 360 degrees, apart from providing a humanitarian operations. It is to provide value-added holistic approach in realizing the wealth creations. We have got the complete set of structures, what is needed to achieve that financial freedom, where the professionals talk to each other, we interact with each other. So Global 360 being an umbrella company, it's got a wealth arm, finance arm, projects, which is the construction arm. We got a accountant support, we got legal support. So all these people work together coherently to achieve your dreams. I think that is what I want to convey. If I ask Madhu, you'll say always, wealth generation is a formula, but you need to follow the advice, be disciplined and be methodical. These are the three things he says. If you put this into your formula, success is no doubt. So thereby, with all this information, I can say that opportunities are endless. You know, if you use the right team to support you, and you being the CEO of your life, creating a structure and, you know, getting a support of a right mentor, and be disciplined, be methodical, get advice from the people who have gone through these journeys, we can achieve wonders. Without much further ado, I would like to introduce Madhu Ramana, the man himself who created My Wealth. I'm sure he's going to shed more light to your financial journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Guru. My friend, brother from another mother. Wow, pretty powerful introductions. Thank you, team, first of all, putting forward this wonderful presentation again. And thank you, guests, for giving us your time. Hopefully you'll take some useful information out of today's presentation. And like what Joanna said, we'll try to keep it lighthearted. Obviously, we won't be able to cover everything tonight, but we'll try to give you snippets which might be useful for you to think through over the weekend. And if you're interested in knowing it any further, then yes, please sing out and we'll be more than happy to assist you as well. Or you can take this information back to the team that you currently have, sit with them, and you may have a more refined conversations with them and yeah, achieve goals. And most importantly, let me reintroduce the team over here. So Joanna, she's the head of marketing, and she's the director for our marketing arm. We do believe in women empowerment, and we are very proud to have young women leaders and taking us through all these journeys pretty effectively. And we've got Yashim, who is the CEO of our Finance 360, but she's also the operations director for the group. And myself, in spite of all the introductions and titles that I've been given, I still go back to what my father used to say when I was still a teenager. He always said that I'm a useless guy.
Mhm.
So the effort since then has been to be recognized as a human being, and that effort is still being continued. I'm pursuing it, but I still don't get introduced as a human being. So I gather my father has been conniving behind my back, talking to all my team members, and they all introduced me with any other title than the title that I want to achieve. Having said that, let's get into it. So Guru, thank you. Naturally, you're very passionate as an individual, and a huge round of applause for your dedication in your journey. And I'm very, very, very proud of what you have achieved. It's not a small feat what you have achieved. 5 years, net worth being more than $6 million, and that keeps growing because you've been disciplined. The But something that's close to my heart is bringing you back to your passion, which is to serve the community. That is probably going to be my exercise this evening for each one of you who has given me your time. I'll try to make it productive for you to come down to the points which are going to be most crucial for you to hone down and sit in front of your own team and resolve these issues and try to walk in a positive vein and build your property portfolios. The first thing each one of you needs to understand is debt. What is debt? What is good debt and what is bad debt? Any debt that does not give you any sort of leveraging factors, such as, for example, tax benefits, is bad debt. So what you need to understand is, how do you convert your good debt into bad debt? In simplistic terms, what is bad debt? Your credit cards, your car loans, irrespective of what anybody would have told you or advised you, your personal loans, your car loans, your credit cards, your charge cards, all of these are bad debts. They're cancerous to your wealth building exercise. So get rid of it first or minimize it. Understanding loans and how to structure them to get maximum mileage, a very, very important thing. So there's a slight statistical error, which Guru said. So I've been in investment banking for 10 years, not 5 years. So being my best friend, you should know that. It's fine, I'll excuse you for this time because he has vaccinated me, so I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for him. Understanding structures. How do your loans work? What benefits you get? How do you structure your finances? What is an asset acquisition? How do you do it? And how do you put a loan behind it and for what purpose? Then understanding sector policies, which Guru has excellently and eloquently put it forward, right? Each one of you in the medical industry, you fall under what we call as sector policy benefits. That means you need to come up with 10% deposits, where the rest of the community has to come up with 20% deposits. That means you should be able to build your portfolio twice as fast as anybody else. So when you're doing your acquisition, there are two things that you need to consider. One is, how much deposit have you got? And what is your borrowing power? When your deposit is halved in an acquisition and all the medical professionals are on relatively good income structures, it should be rather simple. But understanding the policy is the critical thing. Then what are offset accounts? How does it work? So we can go in length at a later session. But for the time being, these are critical things that you need to understand if you guys are serious about setting up your portfolios. Then once you have, let's say, your principal place as your first acquisition, you need to understand what is equity in the property and what an equity loan does and how it works. And you should make it work in your favor, because that gives you a lot of lineage and mileage. So these are the things I want you to ponder upon and try to get a more concise knowledge on these things. Then understanding investment properties or investments in general. Every property serves a purpose. Every single property is like an individual. They come with different characteristics. And each one of these properties, when you're building a portfolio, they play a different role. If you do not understand how properties work and what they deliver, let me assure you, you would be making a pretty big blunder. Then understanding what is asset allocation. How do you allocate these assets? What level of debt do you need to carry for each one of these assets? And then consider risk analysis as well. So any asset which has not been taken into account for risk analysis is a liability. So just like if you're driving a car, you don't have a car insurance, it's a liability. But as long as you've got the car insurance in place, it becomes an asset. So it's a similar analysis for asset building as well. So you need to understand what is risk, how do you analyze it, what are the mitigating factors, and how you position it in your portfolio. And like I started off saying, property types. Fundamentally, there are three types of properties. One are cash flow orientated properties, one are capital growth, and one is balanced growth. If you're building a property portfolio, you need a combination of all these kind of properties, depending on what milestones you're trying to achieve and what is the timeline you've given yourself to achieve these milestones. So take these things seriously. They all are there for a purpose and for a reason. My intention is not to bag any individual professional, be it an accountant, be it a financial planner, be it your finance strategist, be it your bank manager or a broker, any one of them, or be it your builder if you're using builders or renovations team, etc. Right? So they all play a purpose. My $1 million question to each one of you is, have you taken the time to sit in front of all these people and tell what your goal is? Not a fraction of what your goal is. Did you sit in front of your accountant and say, in the next 5 years, I want to have a $10 million portfolio? Did you actually ask that question? Did you sit in front of your financial planner and say, I want to have a $10 million portfolio or wealth position? Did you sit in front of your bank manager and say the same thing? Did you sit in front of your builder and say what you're trying to achieve? I can categorically say that none of you would have sat in front of them and expressed your audacious goals. And be audacious, don't hesitate, right? So you got to be grand in your dreams. And then set up the strategy behind that. So the first thing, like what Guru said, is set your goals and set them correctly. So in one of the strategy sessions that I had with a client, so they wanted to achieve a particular goal, but they did not understand what the outcome of that goal would look like. So I'll just give you an analogy on that. So I asked them, let's believe for the sake of conversation that I can send you to heaven. Would you like to go to heaven? And my client goes, yes, I would love to go to heaven. I asked, would you like to go to heaven tonight? And the client goes, yes. So I said, are you prepared to die? She goes, no. So I said, sorry, I can't send you to heaven. So set your goals that you are prepared to achieve no matter what. Right? If a patient comes to a doctor with cancer, and if the doctor says, look, we need to chop your hand off to keep you alive, it's not a choice for the patient to go and Google and say, hey, there could be risk, there could be this and that. Hand needs to be taken off. It's a price they pay. So a goal needs to be very assertive. You have to understand those things, and you have to prepare to make sacrifices to achieve them. It may not be as drastic or dramatic as I just said, but the intention is what drives you. So your commitment is the most important investment that you're going to make. If you're not committed, you'll never reach those destinations. Another important point, which I thought of since Guru said, he was talking about social media, and Google, Dr. Google, etc. If you're sitting and watching television to get your information about what is a good time to invest, let me tell you upfront, you're not ready for investment yet. Don't waste your time. Don't waste any professional's time. You're just not ready. You should have a burning desire backed by commitment. If either of these two things are missing, there's no point. So tax returns, which is what Guru was talking about. Every accountant is very well positioned and they understand complex tax returns, especially the ones that serve the medical community. It's your job to find those chartered accountants and sit in front of them, explain to them what you need. A chartered accountant and a financial planner working in unison as your team is going to produce wonderful outcome. Again, income distributions, salary packaging, trusts and structures, yes, they're pretty expensive. They play a purpose, but you just need to know when to start using them. In general, every medical practitioner that I've seen since 2004 that I've been in the industry has got a trust structure in place. Do they need it? Categorically, no. Yes, it does play a purpose for asset protection, but at a stage where you have noticeable assets. If you're purchasing a property for $1 million and you put in a 10% deposit, you've got a 900K debt against it, do you need to purchase it under a trust? No. There's nothing that you're protecting. 100K as a doctor, that's nothing, that's rubbish. So you have to understand why a trust structure has been put into place. Then gearing, the most widely spread strategy, which if you don't understand is a rubbish strategy, but if you do understand what it is, you can use it in your advantage. Negative gearing, positive gearing, they do play a role in your investment journey. In essence, I haven't come across a single doctor apart from Dr. Guru Yajman, because his first property purchase happened through my advice. I haven't seen a single doctor who has sat in front of me who did not have a negatively geared property for the reason other than saving on tax. So let's understand the snippets of it, right? So let's have a bird's eye view. What is negative gearing? You're earning X amount of dollars as income, and your investment property is producing lesser income than what your expenditure is. So your accountant is claiming some sort of tax relief. If the investment into that property is purely for tax haven, that is the worst advice you would have been given. And if you do carry a negatively geared property purely for tax saving purposes, I can very safely say, get out of it as soon as possible. Start running away from it. So you're already breeding cancer. However, if you invest in a negatively geared property, which has got capital growth ingrained into it, if you have invested it in a blue chip area, which has got consistent capital growth, irrespective of negative market cycles, then yes, you've done very well. Again, I would say 90% of the community wouldn't have invested in a property which does produce capital appreciation, outperforming your negative gearing benefits. Positive gearing, naturally, it improves your cash flows. So that is what it is. Usually positively geared properties are very remotely located. So they're regional properties or single industry properties. So you got to be very careful when you choose these properties as well, because when you purchase these properties, you may have $1,000 per annum positively geared income, or even less, or probably more, but they don't appreciate in value. So the asset value remains stagnant for an extended period of time. So you have to understand why and how or when, or if at all you need to purchase a positively geared property in the first place. Margin loans. This is something which your financial planner can cover off. So this is an alternative investment strategy as well. So it's got nothing to do with real estate, but it is a very good investment strategy for some of you who wants to diversify your portfolio. So some into property and some into any other kind of investments. So spend a bit of time on understanding the basics of these things. So when you're sitting in front of any of these professionals, they're able to give you quality advice as well. It's important. Superannuation, a very, very important asset for every one of the working community members. So what does it include? How does a self-managed super fund work? Again, your financial planner and your chartered accountant as a team can give you the best structure set up. And you can also purchase properties, which I'm assuming most of you would have known. If not, you can purchase a property under your self-managed super fund. The difference is you cannot release equity from the property. You cannot do any structural renovations on the property that you purchase through self-managed super fund. So there are certain tight regulations that revolve around it, but otherwise it's a fantastic instrument to use to build your wealth. To start off with, the capital gains tax associated to purchase and sale under self-managed super fund is significantly different. So the strategy we incorporate when we suggest a property to be purchased under self-managed super fund is to purchase it and hold it for a longer period of time, and then probably sell it, and you get lesser capital gains tax implications. And then you reinvest again. I think I briefly touched on the subject of risk analysis. A portion of that, or a component of that, includes all of these things. I know each one of you is from medical backgrounds, so life insurance, TPD, trauma, this should be something which you may or may not really focus on. But I do have good family friends who are doctors who did not have any of these things in place, and they lost their lives through cancer. I know them personally, and they are from Sydney as well. So give it a serious thought, because you've got maximum mileage in terms of how quickly you can build your portfolio, but that means you'll also be exposed to higher debt position. So make sure you understand that having risk protection in place is going to leave your asset as an asset. Then also understand, when each one of you work in a medical center or a hospital, so you're working as a subcontractor, so you're responsible for paying your own superannuation, and also put into place business continuity insurance as well. That is a very, 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 very important thing. Okay, so when you generate X amount of dollars as revenue through the structure that you set up, what happens should something happen to you? Also understanding about hedging, how do you use these tools? Every line that has been put into this presentation is applicable and directly applicable to medical professionals, right? So these are not the topics which I'm just throwing out over there generically. So give it a very serious thought, right? And when we talk about insurance, obviously there's going to be premiums. So if you have your superannuation set up properly, you can also pay the insurance premium through your super, which gives you a certain level of tax benefits as well, which again, your accountant and financial planner working together in tandem can provide you with those structures and efficiencies. Estate planning. So it's funny, when you're starting your journey trying to build your wealth, the ambition is to build wealth, okay? More focus is on accumulation, so on and so forth. But more wealth you build, more responsibilities come to you as well, okay? How do you manage it? How do you maintain it? And how do you distribute it? So what sort of power of attorneys do you need to have in place? So what type of testamentary trust you need? How do you distribute your assets to your family, to your kin? What are wills? Do you have wills in place? Do you have a probate in place? So you have to take into consideration all these things, because the more wealth you build, treat it as a business, like a corporate. That is what it ends up becoming. So if I use Guru's net wealth position as a case study, and let's assume a GP. So if your turnover is say $800,000 or $900,000 per annum under your business structure at the moment as a GP, if that's what your billings are, then assume your billings are in tune of $6.1 million. So what sort of things do you have to put into place to protect those things, and what sort of asset distribution structures you need to have in place? So you have to take these things into a serious consideration. This is where your legal team will assist you in setting these up as well. Now, it all sounds like a big jigsaw puzzle. It is, if you want to look at it as a complicated structure, but it isn't if you've got an efficient team. My effort is again not to invite you guys to come to Global 360. That is not the intention at all. My objective is to educate you guys so you can go to your respective existing teams, sit with them and have a serious chat with them, but be very precise, very concise as well, right? So it's very important. Like what Guru said, each one of you is the CEO of your own lives. So if you're working for an organization or a hospital which has got a terrible CEO, we all know what the outcome of that is going to be. So if you're not a good CEO for your own life, you know what the outcome for that would be as well. So there's no point in blaming anyone for those atrocities, right? Having said that, I've spoken all serious things. It just draws me back to my engineering days when I was an engineer. A couple of my classmates, they entered into the medical field, actually. My honest belief was, at that stage, anyone who did graffiti, I thought they had to be doctors because doctors' handwriting was terrible. I seriously believed that, actually. And then there was one instance where I actually picked up the phone. I was asked to get in touch with the urologist. I picked up the phone and the receptionist goes, "Can you hold on?" I was like, "No, I can't." That's why I called the urologist. Anyway, guys, thought I'll throw in some real life humor in there. And I would like to thank you. Yes, I'm trying to make all of you alcoholics. So go get yourself some wine after this presentation. You get some discounts, I think, through our association with one of the firms. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Please also be advised that this is not a financial advice given to any one of you. This is very generic, based on experiences that I have personally seen. And where did this experience come from? I think it came from an intuitive approach where my former boss was Gail Kelly from Westpac. She was a CEO and her brother was a surgeon, Trevor Currer. He was my client and he had a massive portfolio. And when I had an opportunity to sit with him and talk to him, I was his banker. He explained to me the importance and relevance of having a closely knit professional team, because that's what he used to say. All I do is they send me the documents, I sign them, and next thing I know is my wealth is building. So having that trusted team with you, that is your sole responsibility. It's not about analyzing the portfolio structures. It's not about analyzing your accountant design structures, etc. Your job, A, is to draw on paper what your financial goals are. And number two is to surround yourself with the team that you can trust at all times. And rest becomes history. It's for you to enjoy and enjoy the journey. Thank you for your time.
All right, so I guess wrapping up, Madhu did mention quite a few dot points there, a lot of things to consider. So this will be available for replay to view in the future. But if anyone does have any specific questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, in the question and answer box, I should say, because that's probably the better way we can sort of explore some specific examples, some specific questions, because I guess there are just so many different variations of strategies available. It's very difficult to lay down one particular roadmap and say, this is the way, follow it. I think it's best if we sort of explore some particular concerns, questions, things you might have, and then we can kind of learn a bit more that way. So we did allow quite a fair bit of time for question and answers tonight. So if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the question and answer box. If you wave your mouse along the screen, you should be, this is on laptops, by the way, not too sure about phones, but if you wave your mouse across the screen, you should see a little thing pop up in the ribbon at the bottom that says Q&A. If you click on that, you can type in your questions. So I guess just to get the ball rolling, I've got one for both of you. You mentioned a fair bit that, you know, there's certain things that Guru has avoided in his portfolio and his wealth building journey that you see basically a basic requirement, almost like a graduation kit for doctors from their accountants, which is negative gearing and under declaring, you know, aggressively reducing taxable income. So how does avoiding those two pitfalls, I guess, affect the wealth building trajectory of, you know, say like Guru's portfolio? So if you had continued, you know, really low, declaring your income quite low and gotten into that trap of buying highly negatively geared properties with no capital growth, how would that have affected your net worth position, I guess, in that 5-year journey where you've been able to build that quite a, you know, sizable net worth?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm lucky in a way that I was myself presented to Madhu as a clean slate so that he could paint a picture what he wanted to paint. Yeah, I mean, if I had not met, so looking back in my, I'm in Australia for last 7 years, but I've spent more than a decade in UK, you know, nearly 12 years. So reasonably similar income, maybe slightly more here, but during that period of 12 years, all I could do was to just buy one principal place of living. And that too, I bought it at a higher range. So again, probably it was a high-end property, and that's all I could service with my income. I think in a way, you know, I still hold the property. It has appreciated in value. But again, you know, that's a sort of the, if I had the similar knowledge what I have now, you know, imagine the 10 years I've lost in UK, what it could have created. I'm sure Madhu has got many more clients who have fallen into this trap of negative gearing, you know, aggressively reducing their taxable income to save the tax, solely saving the tax, that in turn has actually been detrimental to their wealth portfolio. Do you want to comment
Anything
on
to add?
Well, you know, thanks. I feel like I'm Picasso now. See, negative gearing as a concept is not necessarily a bad thing. It's about what asset that you slap that negative gearing strategy is the important thing. So if you put, okay, I think if I can go a bit deeper into the subject, if you pick, how do you know a property is going to grow in value? That's a subjective question. If the research has been done thoroughly on a particular postcode, when you understand the LGAs or the local government areas, and you know the council, and you know what financial position that council holds, you know that that particular suburb or postcode is going to definitely add value to your portfolio. On top of that, if you have picked up a property within a well-negotiated price range, you've already incorporated the value appreciation. So which we call, in general layman terms, walk-in equity. So you purchase a property at a negotiated discount. So that is already inbuilt into it. And if a particular suburb grows at a particular rate between say 8 to 10% per annum, so that is what we talk about as a valuable asset for a negatively geared property. And over the course of time, even the cash flow rectifies itself, you get all the negative gearing benefits. And if the property is reasonably new, your negative gearing benefits are much higher. That's one of the things which you have to consider. So when I say don't purchase a property purely for negative gearing, yes, that is a suicide attempt. But if you're purchasing a property which is growing in value and with a discount, yeah, you've done well.
So what you're saying is, when you're purchasing a negatively gearing property, it has to be a part of the strategy rather than
The whole strategy.
whole strategy itself. Yeah.
So majority of the times what happens, you sit in front of an accountant, it's your mistake. You, like I said, right, you're the CEO. So you're not telling the accountant what you're planning to achieve. So your accountant sees your income as $500,000 or $1 million, and is saying you're on the highest tax bracket, let me save your tax. So go buy a negatively geared property. And you go, you pick up the most expensive property that you can purchase without doing your due diligence. Bang, you purchased it. Yes, you purchased a negatively geared property. So your accountant is getting you back some tax money, but you're not able to progress in your life. You're stuck with it.
Yeah, can you also touch upon how reducing your taxable income affects, I think that's something probably it's relevant to health professionals.
Yep.
Affects your serviceability and, wealth building. If you could just please.
Sure, okay. Let's flip that across. On an average, a GP in Australia earns about $500,000 on an average. Now, when you were a registrar, what was your income group like on an average? Be about half of that. Or
Yeah, maybe
200?
less than that, maybe about 100,000 to 150,000.
So what would have your servicing, what would your servicing look like when you were earning $100,000? Probably your borrowing capacity would be, if you were single, about 1.5 mil. That's the loan amount you could reach. So now if you put that back into the context, if you're on $500,000 income, and let's say your accountant is reducing your income by $150,000, that basically means he's wiping out an opportunity for you to throw in a $2 million debt position into the equation. So which means you could have purchased a property which is worth $3 million or properties worth $3 million with a $2 million debt associated to it. So your net wealth position is being reduced by $1 million. That's what it does.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I learned. I mean, reducing your tax, not necessarily a good strategy. You have earned your money. You should be proud to pay the tax. And at the same time, higher income and paying higher tax would definitely improve the serviceability in achieving your, financial goals by acquiring more assets. I think that's one of the key things that, I learned in the journey.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess on a similar vein, you also mentioned things like structures, and my understanding is that they also are quite hampering to being able to borrow money and create wealth. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Shall I answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. So structures do play a purpose, like I said, right? So as soon as you see a doctor go without advising what they plan to achieve, because it's in a way, it's a high risk industry as well, because they're dealing with health. So an accountant or a financial advisor, whoever might be the case, they generally suggest the doctors or medical professionals to set up a structure for asset protection. The problem though is when your asset is not worth protecting. So if you've only got, say, one property and you're purchasing it under a trust structure, your interest rates are going to be slightly different, more dearer. B, for you to get the loan, the processing time is going to be a bit more longer. But C, the most important thing is it worth it? Because setting up a structure will cost anything between $5,000 to $8,000 as well. And then you have to every year maintain that trust structure as well. So what should happen is once you have built your portfolio to a certain threshold, which I normally say it should be in surplus of your per capita income, that is when trust structures will start playing relevance. So if you're earning $100,000 and your wealth position is at 200K, then yes, your trust structures can start coming into play. But if your income is $1 million and your wealth position is 100K, there's really no purpose of a trust structure. Number two is when you have, again, asset protection doesn't really happen under trust structures if you've got debt associated to that asset. Because even though you're purchasing it under trust, you as the trustee have to go in there as a guarantor. So the minute you go in there as a guarantor, that is the gap that you're letting open. you're leaving the door open. So if somebody is attacking your asset, suing you, so they can still sue you because you're the guarantor over there. So the effective way of using trust is when that asset you're putting under trust has got no encumbrance, which means no debt associated to it. So that is worth protecting.
Yeah, obviously, I take your point. If you're already a guarantor for the trust, you still can be sued. There's no purpose. I mean, that completely defeats the purpose. Yeah, there's a question here from Dr. Venugopalan. He's my colleague as well. He's asked, a lot of accountants coerce you into setting up a company or a trust.
Your comments.
Your comments.
No comments. Well, thank you for the question. Look, it's subjective, not knowing your financial situation as such. I can't really give you any sort of directive advice. There could be a reason. We have to look into it. But is it applicable in every single instance? The answer is not necessarily. Because, like I said, if your asset position is less than your per capita income, I really don't see the reason or purpose. So I always debate this with chartered accountants. And in every single instance, I've won that debate anyway. So I think for you, you have to go back and just assess what your net position is and what the reason behind the trust structures is. And if you see the relevance that what your trust is protecting is worth more than your net worth position, then yes, absolutely. There's a very good reason that your accountant would have advised you for that.
What about when it comes to borrowing under trust? That also becomes an issue, doesn't it?
Yes, so the product itself that gets associated in terms of loan is a commercial product. So trust falls under a commercial segment. So the ETA for you to get a loan approval is much longer, and the derivatives that they use as yardsticks are much more stringent. So what you need in terms of surplus income and so on and so forth. So they keep changing. So which they call as income to debt ratio. So that is the tool they use. So which falls under outside of NCCC. So and then they try to put it under consumer code. So it's a bit more complicated. And every loan that gets approved under trust structure goes under two credit teams. One is the consumer credit team. The other one is the business credit team. So a lot of the times people who have purchased properties under trust structures know that their loan takes forever to be processed.
So in short, it takes a long time, and they also need more deposits, more income.
Well, deposits need not be more, but it needs approval from two different credit teams to start off with. So which means your ETA, let's say you have to purchase a property on a standard turnaround time, it's not going to happen. Okay. Right. So again, why? Question is why? So if you're already approaching a loan scenario for your trust, I personally do not see any value in setting up that trust.
Okay. So I guess that that talks about loans and structures a little bit. You did mention that earlier in your presentation, where it's important to match the loan structure to the property type and to your goal. So it's kind of, a lot of people think of, I'll just buy a property and get a loan, but here you're kind of introducing three variables that can interact with each other and create a myriad of different combinations. Can you give an example, I suppose, of someone, who's gotten the structure, property and loan type combination wrong and how it's affected them?
Absolutely. I can say this.
Probably just putting the same question in a different manner is, probably if there is any health professional sitting and watching this, okay, I want to start an investment journey. So how do I start? So what type of assets I need to look into?
Well, that's very general question, Guru, because like, for example, within our network itself, right? So we've got a group of, say, 14 or 15 doctors now. Not everybody's goal was exactly the same as yours. And the strategy and the properties they have purchased are all different. So even the tax returns are different, their financial planning is different. You know, with some of the doctors, we gave them house and land packages. And for the others, we've purchased certain properties, setting up trusts because they can use that as an unencumbered asset under trust. So it's all
Depends on what you
different.
want to
Yes,
achieve.
what you want to achieve. Strategy cannot be very general. It cannot be generic, especially when we are saying each one of these attendees tonight itself, we are saying you need to have a specific tangible goal before a strategy can be set up. I cannot reverse that.
Okay.
Right. So they have to understand, they have to sit and they have to say, okay, for example, if any of your colleagues are sitting and if they have seen your numbers on the screen today, so if they relate to that and they say, look, I want to have in the next 5 years a net $5 million net wealth position, then we can set up a strategy and give them the pattern of acquisition.
So what was an example of where it went wrong? And because there might be some people who are like, okay, did I do wrong? And how can they rectify it? Because it's never too late, right? So
It's
give
never
just
too late.
an example of and
In what sense, Yashim? Example, like, I would say if anyone does not have a professional team, they did not deem setting up a financial goal was an objective. So it's not wrong. Whatever they've done well then. But if they have set up a financial goal and they don't have a professional team, it doesn't matter what property they purchased, they've done it wrong. So it's one of those things, right? So it's a very vague question. For me to give you a direct answer, I can postmortem every one of them who's got a financial goal and do not have a professional team. I can find cancer in every one of them. Every one of them.
So maybe just one or two examples, just so that the participants today can, I guess, get a few real life examples of how these factors interact and how they, because they're quite big, quite big concepts and difficult to.
Exactly, and that's the reason why I said we can't cover all these things, but yes, happy to have a one-on-one session with them. But okay, so I'll give you a classic example, right? So I used to have a very good friend of mine who was an anesthetist in Novus Private. So if any of you are from local, from New South Wales, any of your medical professionals. So I used to have a very good friend who was an anesthetist in Novus Private Hospital and also in Westmead Private. So he was one of those doctors who goes to both the hospitals. We're talking about 2015, 2016. So he comes up to me, he goes, okay, so I want you to assess my portfolio and I want you to achieve my financial objectives. So he already had by then 5 properties. 3 of them were invested in Melbourne, 2 of which were penthouses in Melbourne. 1 property where he used to live in South Stratfield, which was a property he bought off his family through inheritance by paying out his siblings. And 1 property was in Bondi Junction. I still remember all the properties right. The 3 properties he bought in Melbourne were specifically bought to reduce tax. Now, how things can go wrong? Okay, so what they did was he bought these properties off plan. Nothing wrong in purchasing properties off plan, by the way. But what you have purchased becomes relevant. So he bought a 1-bedroom plus study penthouse. And he went and stayed there after the settlement had happened. He fell in love with the views. He went and bought 2 more through the same developer in a different location. But again, so he ended up with 3 penthouses in the span of 3 years. I'll tell you the numbers: 1.2 mil, 1.39, 1.6 mil, which was a 3-bedroom penthouse with a study, so almost a 4-bedroom penthouse. Then he had Strathfield property plus the Bondi Junction property. When the settlements were happening, they cross-collateralized all those 3 Victoria properties with Strathfield property. Strathfield property was an unencumbered property, which he paid out his siblings through inheritance. Then when he came to me, I was like, okay, looking at the structure itself, I was like, okay, you already have bought yourself a coffin. Now it's just a matter of time whether you're going to die or I have to rest. So I didn't know what level of surgery I had to perform. So, okay, let me take one step at a time. So went out valuations. Valuations for 1.2 purchase came back at 630,000. Valuation for 1.3 purchase came back at 700,000, and the 1.6 purchase came back at 750. So all up, 3 properties put together, the valuation came back something around 2 mil, and we could not uncross the properties. Bad structure, terrible structure. What happens when people cross-collateralize the properties? If one state is dropping in value whilst the other state is maintaining the value, the bank does release the equity, except it rebalances the loans internally. It does not give you those funds so that you can go and invest elsewhere. He cannot sell those properties at a 50% loss. Right? This is true story. Like if any of you know anesthetist in the local in Novice Private, you can go, you can say, okay, I'm Madhu's friend, and he's going to tell you the sad story. We had to wait for 18 months, and he had to sell 2 properties to minimize the cancer effect, literally. And then we had to invest in another property, build the property, sell it for profit, then to throw in onto this Victoria property so that the deficit that's happening can be compensated and it comes up. So we had to literally sell those 3 properties, go 5 years backwards, and then restart his journey.
We just got a question, just asking to clarify what cross-collateralized means. So I think you
Cross-collateralization is 2 assets being used as security for 1 loan facility.
2 or more.
2 or more.
In this case, more.
So I suppose, like, instead of using a deposit, you say, I've got this other property here, it's got some value in it.
Yeah.
You know, can you lend against this? And the bank will say, sure.
So they're taking more than one security for one
Yeah.
loan.
But that means, as you said, if one goes down in value, it negatively affects the position of the other. So you can't withdraw
Equity.
any equity as cash to take, you know,
Exactly.
and go shopping elsewhere, right? So this sounds like this guy lost a lot of money for a lot, like over $1 million, right?
I was telling you, he's lost close to 2 mil.
Close to 2 million in value in the properties and negated his gains elsewhere.
So what did he save in tax? Probably $40,000 every year. What did he lose? $2 million.
That's right.
So I was telling him, you're an anesthetist, so you need to sedate yourself while I perform the surgery.
Good.
That's excellent.
Okay, so relevant and most recent case, one of my good friends, him and me, we went into banking together, same day induction. He went into risk and policies in Westpac. He still is in Westpac. Very recent loan structure where, because he's a bank employee, he gets similar benefits, 10% deposit. So I said, okay, so for this particular purchase, you go back to your bank and you get the 10% loan, so etc. He goes back to the bank cross-collateralizes. This is after I speak to the bank manager, giving her specific instructions on how to structure the finances. The bank manager puts both the properties together, and now the guy is coming back to Yeshim to undo the mess. Again, it slows down. Let's just say it that way. Just slows down.
What about ownership? Like the person you choose to hold the property under, does that affect things as well?
It does, definitely. That's what I was saying, income structures, the income distribution also becomes relevant. See, one thing we all need to understand is tax optimization and wealth building. You cannot put them on the same page. They are like wife and mistress. You got to choose one or the other. right? So I'm being very candid on that. So you have to choose one over the other. You can't have them both under the same roof. Right? So wealth building is like your wife, your tax optimization is your mistress.
So when it comes to wealth building, why do you view real estate so positively as opposed to all the other options like shares?
No, that's not true. See, real estate is more relative, because whether you're purchasing a property, whether you already own a property, or whether you're renting a property, each one of us as a human being, we need a roof on our head, right? So it's a basic necessity, especially when you've started earning an income. It becomes an ambition because you need a roof on your head. So it's very relatable asset as opposed to shares. Right? The funny thing is, like, for example, when a client says, look, send me the details of the property, let me do the assessment, they're not prepared for an investment journey, though it might sound harsh. For example, let's say you're investing in Woolies shares. It's as funny for me to hear you saying, okay, I'm going to invest in Woolies shares after I visit every Woolworths shop that's around the country. And something in Toowoomba is, I don't like that Woolworths, so I'm not going to invest in Woolies shares. So this is not your area of expertise. So leave it to the experts. So your only objective should be to surround yourself with that team who you can depend on.
Yeah, one of the other thing I want to specifically hear from you is majority of the times, especially when we are like a first-time home buyers, it becomes an emotional journey. How do you take emotion out of your investment journey? I think that I personally learned through my experience, in spite of your saying not to do that, all I wanted to create was my James Bond house in my first stepping stone. Though it worked out fairly on my favor, but I want to hear for the audience that how to take that emotion out of an investment, say a property or anything, when you want to achieve a bigger thing in life.
Okay, stay true to your emotions. Okay, an asset is an asset. It is a materialistic thing. For example, me, I love watches. That doesn't mean I wear it 24/7. Yes, I love a watch. I love the complexity that a watch has got, right? So those are the things. But if a watch falls down and breaks or whatever happens to it, I'm not going to sit and cry on. It's a watch. Okay. Do I have an insurance? Yes. Okay. So can I replace it? Yes. So a property is replaceable as well. So we have to come out of that mindset of what we have grown up with. Oh, that's my family home. That's where everything is. So when people say that, if you become pragmatic, so if that house wasn't your family home, this house was your family home, would your emotions be less? No. Right? Yeah. So we attach our egos, we attach our emotions, which are not necessary for that purpose. It's just 4 walls and a roof. The reason you're investing in that is to produce money. Period. That's the job of that property. Don't put additional pressure on the property. So it's as simple as saying, my heart is broken. Your heart's job is to pump blood. That is it. True or not, you're a doctor.
Sure.
Why is your heart broken? It's not even a solid thing. It cannot break. Its job is to pump blood. So leave it. Don't put additional pressure on it. So don't put additional pressure on the property. So your first property, I'll tell you, your 10th property also is not going to be your dream property because you're constantly evolving.
That's correct.
Right? It's when your evolution starts to slow down, that's when the metrics fall into place. Right? So which basically means when you're starting to slow down is when your dreams will start formulating. And mark my words, at that stage, you don't want a grand mansion. Right? But it's a good testimonial, you know, when you're participating in a race, that gold medal, it gives you a sense of accomplishment. It's a testimonial for your hard work. Nothing wrong in accomplishing these goals, but they're just goals. Where does the fulfillment come? When you pick up that child who's not related to you, hug them close to your heart, and treat them like your own child, fulfillment will come. Right? So create surplus, fly business class, first class, travel around the world, drive your Mercedes, drive your Lamborghinis, whatever your ambitions are, they're all materialistic accomplishments. By all means do it. You worked hard. Don't feel shy in earning big dollars. Don't feel shy in having shiny objects. Nothing wrong with it. But build your character, which is beyond all these things. Don't get clouded. Don't kill the character in you. Don't get pulled down by other people, right? So you guys have worked hard. Go enjoy the life. Enjoy the materialistic life, but do not compromise on leading a fulfilling life. Absolutely. Right? So there's nothing wrong in going out, having a party night, having a few drinks, but don't get addicted to drinks. That's bad, right? So by all means, enjoy all these things in life, but build your human character. Like what you said, it's a formula, easy, be disciplined, be focused, you will achieve it, you'll smash it. In your case, you're living it. Yeah. It wasn't that difficult, right, Guru? And it's not that you had to work 5 different jobs to achieve it, right?
It's the same job.
You just worked smarter.
Worked smarter, created a team structure who worked hard to achieve my goal. Yeah, I think that proves the point.
Rather than saving, you know,
Okay.
a couple of
Actually,
$10,000 a taxi
can-
year made almost $1 million a year.
James,
overall.
can I ask 2 questions? Am I allowed to ask 2 questions?
I suppose so.
Fine.
My first question is to Guru. What was your capital when you started this journey?
Well, I recently had moved from UK, a lot of expenses. I set everything out and I started probably maybe 40,000, 50,000.
With that, you built a 6.1 net wealth position.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Come on, be honest, Guru. Which banks did you rob? Okay. Question number 2 is, obviously you've repeated, and this is something which I asked Shruti yesterday as well, because I'm genuinely curious, right? And this I asked in Yashim's office. My question to you is, you were a doctor for about 10 years in the UK. You had friends over there. You probably had financial advisors in their own capacity, whatever. Came to Australia, you have a professional network over here, and all your friends are in professional fields, engineers, doctors, etc. And they all have achieved certain milestones as well in their financial journeys, right? And why did you take my advice on board? Please be candid, because it's a question which I want to really understand. I personally want to understand why me, when you do have friends and your friends purchase properties through us right now.
I think, I mean, to be very frank and candid, I think it's the vision that resonated with me, the trust factor, and also the fact that your vision was to, give back to the community. That's what resonated within me. I think the fact that you wanted to hug a child who is not yours, rescue a woman who is in danger, or serve, poor people who are not, related to you. So those are the exactly kind of things I wanted to do, which I've been wanting to do. That's the reason I became one of these professions where you can deliver that. And that took a backbone for last 10 years of my life. It was like a refreshing to see a person at the time, in this whole wide world, to see a person who resonates with my inner emotions and thoughts and passions, what I wanted to do. And you had achieved what I wanted to achieve by that time I met you. You had already achieved and surpassed. As I said in my presentation, who else could have been a better mentor than you? Not just achieving the financial goals, but also resonates with my passion and purpose in life, and who deeply believes in the values I believe in.
Interesting. Now, coming to think about it, so the journey that we have, or the entire team, right? So my team is my family, entire family over here. The challenges that we've got are far, far more difficult as compared to financial objectives, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So in terms of financial goals, there was nothing that you had to do. Oh, you had a builder who builds your house. You have real estate agents who present the properties to our office, which we filter through what fits you, present it to you. You sign the contract. You're just purchasing properties left, right, and center. So you didn't have to work any harder, just more disciplined with purpose. But it's given you back the opportunity to go back to your basics of why you became a doctor.
Exactly.
And this is the reason why we are doing this presentation today. To each one of you, my humble appeal is building wealth is not complex. It's not complicated. It's just a discipline and a formula. Okay. But your profession, like if some of the doctors might be from Indian subcontinent, in Sanskrit, there's a saying, Vaidyo Narayana Hari. So you are the demigods. You guys can save lives, right? Go back to those grassroots level, the purpose of why you became doctors. Whether it's the team here, whether it's any other team, take these points, sit with those professionals, and they will build a formula for you. And if you trust that team, then you'll be nailing it. So that is important, right? But saving lives is more complicated. Touching those human lives and changing their lives is more complex. It's way too complex. And fortunately, you guys are skilled in that area. That's what I want each one of you to focus on. And that's a humble appeal from me.
All right, well, I think we might have to leave it there on that inspirational, heartfelt note. Thank you, Madhu and Guru, and thank you again, everyone in our audience who's joined us for tonight. We did go a little bit over time, but I think it's something, we feel quite passionate about here. We touched upon our very reason for existence and our founding inspiration. So do forgive us if we went a little bit over time. But if anyone does want to have a discussion with either Guru or Madhu or anyone here and ask a few more questions, our door's always open. You're welcome to come in, have a cup of coffee. We've got a great view over the lake here in Norwest. So we can have a chat, talk about your situation, and completely obligation free. You can take that information back to your experts, armed with a bit more ammo there, or you might be interested to see if there's a second opinion we can offer upon your situation. But like I said, welcome to reach out to us, and we hope you got something out of tonight. And if you like what you heard and would like to keep abreast of further developments, either in our health clinics that we'll be setting up in the future, or any of our overseas health initiatives, or even ones here in Australia, be part of that, or just in general about the company, please follow the Global 360 Degrees Facebook page or LinkedIn if you prefer to live on that platform. And we'll you'll be getting news.
Also ask them for the contact details.
Yeah, and also your contact details. If you, we do have your email addresses, but if you'd like us to reach out and give you a phone call and follow up or keep you in the loop about anything specific, just put your details in the question and answer box. We'll keep the window open for a few more minutes. I believe you can submit them anonymously, so no one else will see your details, and we'll collect the info and get in touch with you on Monday or shortly next week. So once again, thank you very much. We'll just leave this window open a little bit longer in case anyone wants to leave their details. But other than that, you're all welcome to go and enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Goodbye, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good night.